What's going on? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world. And so what we're really quickly going to go into is at the characteristics of successful options traders. So if you've been in the options trading market for a little while, you're not having the success that you desire, right? What I want to try to do is really quickly get you to understand that there's certain characteristics that are going to allow you to be successful in the options market, okay? And so what makes me qualified to explain this to you is one that I have the ability to have some longevity of success in the options market. And I've also been able to train other people to have that same success. And I'm not a guy with a PhD. I'm not a guy with a background in finance. I'm not a guy that's worked on Wall Street. But what I am is that I'm a regular person just like you that was able to figure some things out and then have the ability, right, to turn around and teach it to other people. So that's why I think this can be valuable to you. And so what we're talking about is that what makes certain options traders successful and not other options traders successful. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drawing on myself and then the other people that I've taught that have shown that they have the ability to become successful, right? And what we're using success as a baseline is that you're able to drive in around $2,000 a month in revenue profit, right? And then you're able to consistently use that as a floor over time to build off of, okay? Because the goal of what I teach people is that if you can make $2,000 a month profit as your baseline, you can use that as a floor to build off of, right? Essentially, if you approach it the same way that a business looks at it. So like most businesses, they look at their revenue by, we got to drive in a certain amount of money per month to break even for our monthly or our quarterly revenue statement. And if we know that we can hit that break even point, then everything past that is profit. So what I want to try to get people to understand is that as an options trader, the reason why you want to look at $2,000 as a baseline is because if you can do $2,000 a month, essentially you can do over $20,000 a year. And then once you understand how to utilize position size, you can double that. And now you can do 40, 60, whatever. But you'll make the $2,000 a month your baseline. So you don't want to go under that unless something bad happens. But it's not a number that's so out there in the universe that you feel like you got to take on a lot of risk to get it. But it's a number that you can wrap your head around, because I understand is that life is about graduating and matriculation. So if you can understand the $2,000 and you can understand the 4, you can understand the 6, you can understand the 8, and so on and so on. So what I really didn't want to start people with is, oh, well, you got to do $10,000 a month. But the problem is that you've never done $1,000 a month. And so to get that 10,000, you start hitting a lot of risk. So the first thing is that you want to actually study the markets. And what I mean by that is that the people that have been successful, myself included, is they do their readings. So when I'm looking at people that have been successful, I have a group, is that one characteristic of all of these people is that inside the group, they are showing the fact that they're actually reading material, right? So they're actually consuming material around the markets. They're reading it. They have a perspective on it. They have an opinion on it, and they're sharing it out to try to get other perspectives and other opinions, or they may think this information can be valuable to somebody else. A lot of people are trying to be successful in the options market based on what somebody else is presenting to them. And that's cool, but the question is, do you have the ability to take information out of the environment on your own and use your own brain and analyze that information? And yes, you may get feedback and counseling from other people, but at the end of the day, you're able to make the decision based on your own brain. So that's one thing, and that's something that I've seen that's consistent between myself and the other people that have been successful, is that they all read information about the markets and they're able to take that information and kind of understand what that means and then act on that information. Doesn't mean they're perfect all the time, doesn't mean they're right all the time, but it means that they understand how to utilize this particular process, because over time you're only going to get better. The second thing that they do is that they're very consistent in their effort. So what a lot of people do is that they come into the market, they want to get a result. The result doesn't happen in 90 days. They get distracted by something else and they go to something else. And I'm not upset at them. I'm not mad at them, because I understand the only way this society works is they continue to distract you. If this society is not successful in distracting you, then this society that they built doesn't work. Because if we as a group of people took 20 years and we focused on one thing and we really dug deep into that particular niche, we entrenched ourselves in that area, we would change everything for our people. So whether we did real estate, whether we did the stock market, whether we did cryptocurrency, whether we did precious metals, It didn't matter what we did. If we decided that we were going to take that one thing and for the next 20 years focus only on that, not care about what these celebrities were talking about, not caring about sports, not caring about anything but becoming experts in that particular area, we would change everything for our group. But the only way this society works is they continue to keep us distracted. So when somebody comes in and they don't get a result that they want and the amount of time it takes them to get distracted to watch something else, I understand that that's normal. That's part of the system that I'm part of, right? So I understand a certain amount of people are going to get lost in the sauce. But what they can't say 10, 15, 20 years down the road is that this information was not presented to them. Because one of the things that compelled me, along with some other things, is to bring this information to people as opposed to just holding it to myself and trying to figure out how I can make the most money for myself by myself. Is because, one, I understood that a lot of us was in the same situation that I was in where we didn't even know about this particular information. So that's one of the things that motivated me is that I said, you know what? There's people that can be better at it than me, but they're just not aware of it. Because I had a member of my family talk to me about options. I want to say in 2010, I was in Chicago for a funeral. But they never elaborated on it and never elaborated on the benefits of it, yada, yada, yada. They just was like, yeah, you know, we're doing some options plays, and they kept it moving. So if I would have known about this in 2010, I would literally by now have 10 years in the game. And in 2010, I was much more capitalized or better capitalized than I currently am today. So I could have made a lot more better moves in the market, right? So you got to understand is that what I really endeavor to do is to get this message and get this word out to as many people as possible while I'm doing this. So they won't be able to say in 2025 and 2030 and 2035 is that no one made me aware of this, right? They're not going to be able to say that. And the reason why they're not going to be able to say that is because I actually came and presented this to them, presented it to them in a way in which they can understand it. I offered them the help. I offered them the feedback. I offered them the follow-up. I offered them everything that they needed, that I thought that they needed to be successful. And I kept the line of communication open between me and them. But one thing about the people that have been successful in this area is that they stayed consistent in what they were doing. They didn't quit early. Most people come into this space and they quit early. They get distracted by something else. And that's how they defeat themselves. Because one you got to understand about this is you don't get good at anything until you've been laced with it. Right? You don't have no game till you get laced with game. The second thing you got to do is you got to get seasoned in that particular space. So you got to get laced first. Most of y'all was running around here, y'all ain't been laced with nothing. Right? Half the stuff y'all know it don't even make no sense. People saying they got game, what they really mean is they must mean they got game on the PlayStation. Because they don't really have no game. So because they don't have no game themselves, they don't have nothing to give you. So then people are receiving stuff from people that don't really have nothing to tell them. So first thing you got to do is you got to get laced with game. Second thing you got to do is you got to get seasoned. To get seasoned, you got to stick around. And you got to go through the trials and the tribulations. You got to go through the predicaments and you got to go through the incidents, right? Until you come through on the other side and you so seasoned, and on top of the fact that you've been laced, you've been taught properly, now you can operate with confidence. Why? Because you've been through pretty much everything. So if you haven't even been in the markets a year, you really ain't been through nothing. Now, a lot of people that came into the markets this year, essentially they got an accelerated course, right? Because of the way COVID was working on this market and the way it's still working on this market. To me, what you're getting is probably 3 or 4 years worth of market experience in 1 year. Because before this, the market was just going up. Now the market went down and went up and went back down again. It's trying to work its way back up. It's been very, very volatile, right? So to me, this was the best time to get into the market because of what was going on in the world. It was essentially a fast track. Like you can go to college, and when I was in college, they had something called these accelerated courses. And they would give you like a whole semester of the course in like 6 weeks. But they would literally just be throwing work at you so fast. If you really didn't have your head on straight, they would just flunk you real fast. To me, that's what the market was doing to people this year. Okay? So if you aren't really consistent and willing to get one laced properly and really get the proper understanding of what's going on, right? And then get seasoned and to be able to get the experiences, deal with the incidents and the predicaments, right? And then figure out how to bounce back from anything, it's going to put you in a position where you will not be successful. So everybody that's been successful has dealt with those things, right? The second thing is done is that they've reached back to me for feedback. So a lot of people that I've taught this to, I've taught it to them and never heard from them again, right? Not mad at them, not upset. That's their choice, right? It may not be for them. So let's say hypothetically, let's say I buy a workout program for somebody. I may buy the workout program and say, you know what, I don't want to do this. Like, I was really interested in CrossFit at one time. But once I really started to understand CrossFit on a deeper level, I realized CrossFit was not for me. So some of the people that have come into my particular program, they realize, you know what, being an options trader is really not for me. But for the people that have been successful, they came back to me for feedback. They realized that the lines of communication are actually open between me and this person. So let me get feedback from this person and get some counsel so I can understand what I'm doing, so I can continue to try to move that next step forward, right? And the third thing they did is that they didn't get caught up in the hype. So one of the things that I teach people to do is that take a certain group of companies and just trade those companies, right? And don't get caught up in what everybody else is around you doing. There's 500 companies in the S&P 500. So there's 500 companies in which you can try to generate some type of income and profit off of. Because you see a guy on social media getting $10,000 a day off of a company, don't mean that's what you need to do and run over there and play that. Because you see another person over here doing this, don't mean that's what you need to do. Okay? When I was outside, I seen a lot of people doing a lot of different stuff, right? Making a lot more money than what I was making. But you know what? I worked my lane because that's the lane I was in. And I didn't care about what those other people was doing because that didn't have nothing to do with me. And what a lot of people do is they come into the options market and their plays might not be going good. And they get distracted by what somebody else is doing because their plays is going good. And you cannot allow that to happen. You got to be solid in what you're doing until you decide that that's not going to work for you, and then you do something else. But you can't just run back and forth and chase everything because you see other people making money on that. That's for them. That don't necessarily mean it's for you. And you never really become an expert on any ticker or any ETF if you always jumping all over the place. And there's a lot of power in becoming an expert on a ticker or ETF. And that's what I really try to get people to understand. So those are some of the 3 things or the 4 things that people that I'm talking to now that I've had a lot of success as a woman. And hopefully I'll be able to get her to speak to some of y'all about why she was able to have success so fast, because essentially she took my program about a year ago and she's reached a really, really great amount of success. And I don't want to put all her business out in the street, so I'll let her tell you as opposed to me tell it. But she did this program for around a year. She really applied it. And now we at a point to where I talk to her on social, but she really don't have a lot of questions for me because she really dug so deep into what we were talking about, into the actual market and understanding how to get better, that she's been able to have a ridiculous amount of success. And so it really made me feel good that I was able to teach her something that allowed her to make money, right? Allow her to control her own income. Allow her to decide when she wanted to make money, how she wanted to make money, how much money she wanted to make. And it wasn't something that was going to end up putting her in jail. It wasn't something that was going to threaten her liberty in society. It wasn't something that was going to take her away from her family and threaten her. And it wasn't something that was going to leave her stuck, right? Feeling bad that she got involved in the situation with me. And so that's really what I'm endeavoring to do, right? With people that want to move forward. But you got to be able to understand that you really have to understand that this is a process, and you got to be committed to the process, and you got to take this seriously because this is a serious space. There's a lot of opportunities online for you to do a lot of silly stuff with a lot of people, right? And if that's what you want to get into, I'm cool with that too. Okay? But one thing about me is that when it comes to business, when it comes to money, right? When it comes to moving a certain way, I'm 100% about my business, and I'm 100% serious, and I don't play no games about it. And the price point don't have nothing to do with it. I'm just as serious with $20 as I am with $20,000 when it comes to business. So what I want you to understand is that a lot of people came into my program at lower price points. I think that's the reason why they really didn't take it that serious. I'm continuing to raise the price point because if I'm showing you how to generate $2,000 a month as a baseline out of the markets, it don't make sense for me to be charging you $100 for that. Because in reality, I'm robbing myself. But I brought the price point in because I didn't have a lot of experience. I didn't have a lot of credibility. I didn't have a lot of testimonials. I have that now. I know I have a process that works on people. I know I have a system and a way to matriculate people through something that can get them results as long as they stick to the process. So the price point is going to continue to go up. because it don't make sense for me to teach you how to make $20, $24, $26,000 a year minimum baseline, and you only paying me $100. I'm robbing myself. But what I want to tell you to do is that for everybody that got in early, take advantage of what you got in. For anybody that wants to get into the future, if I charge you $10,000 and you can get to $24,000 in a year, right? You still came up, because after you pay me the $10,000, you don't ever owe me another dollar. And your income potential is unlimited. Because now once you learn how to play these markets, somebody in your family can give you $200,000 and you know how to get a return on that $200,000 utilizing the markets. You don't have to worry about trying to put that money in the bank and getting less than 1%, putting that in a money market account, getting less than 1%, right? Or putting that in a 401k or IRA. You know how to take that money and take a percentage of that money and go out into the market and get a return on that particular money and bring it back and to continue to build it out for your family. And that is a power that the majority of the world does not have. So that's what I'm offering you, right? But it has to be something that you're interested in and you understand the value of what I'm trying to teach you and you desire to work your way throughout the whole process, because I'm not going to be doing this forever. Like I said before, once this cycle is complete, I'm going to go do something else. But right now, while I'm in this cycle, this is what I'm doing. So if you want to understand more about the highest paid part-time job in the world, reach out to me. If you're one of the people that's already in the course and you got any questions, you know I'm always available and I'm always open. If you know somebody that can get value from this, share it out. This is David W. Williams, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world. I'll talk to you later.